Welcome in. It is day 272, and you're speaking to the Meeples Champion. And today, we're going over a game that I just got to play. This is a game a friend of mine chose for our Monday Night Game Crew, and it was a lucky pick because it's actually one of the games I haven't played before that are being competed in at the World Series of Board Gaming. It's not a game I was choosing as one of my 4 individual contest games, but if by some slim chance I win one of those contests and I go to the next round, then this is one of the potential follow-up games I could end up having picked because I can't compete in the same game again if I win one. So, the game is called Acquire. Now, Acquire is a pretty straightforward game. For those of you who have watched my channel, maybe not from the start, but a bunch of the videos, you know that I've gone over Foundations of Rome. Big fan of it. I love the idea of putting things out, the buildings, buying the lots. And I mentioned how I felt that was an improved upon version of Chinatown, where it's the same concept. It's not the big buildings. They have smaller blocks. It's not the idea of scoring for what's around, but actually grabbing pieces, and the more that you get of the same item that you own, a piece or a location, as well as the type of place. So like dim sum, as you get them next to each other, it grows the business. This feels like the predecessor to that. Now, the concept of Acquire is you start the game off and you have this big grid, and I believe it's literally 100 spaces. It actually might be 144. I think it goes 12 by L, I think. And the idea is that you all flip over one of the tiles. Whoever is the closest to the top left corner, better letter wins. Meaning A1 is the number 1, A2 is number 2, not B1. So all the A's and all the B's. Once you figure out who's first, all the tiles you randomly flip to see who is going to be first are all put on the board as starting tiles. Now, everybody else is going to be dealt out 6 random tiles that only they know and $6,000. And now, when it's your turn, you get to place one of your tiles on the board. When you place it on the board, if it connected with another tile and caused at least a 2 or more tile size to appear, and it's not part of an already existing business, you can pick a business if they're still available and put it on top. You immediately get to have one of the stocks of that business for free. Then you can acquire with your money up to 3 additional stocks of anything that's on the board. So if you haven't built anything yet, you can't buy anything. You do that, and then you go to the next player. And you keep doing this. So you're going to keep spending your money buying and buying more stocks. But your stocks for your different items are going to be able to increase based on as you slowly get more and more of the different spots combining with it, growing its size. Now, if ever you have, say, one of them for 3, one of them for 4, and something connects them, the bigger one eats the smaller. Immediately, you're now going to, everybody's going to show the stocks they had for the one that was eaten. Whoever has the most stocks at the table will get a big bonus as the majority stockholder. Whoever has the second most stocks will get a secondary bonus as the minority stockholder. And then everybody will have the option of one of 3 things. 1, you can sell the stocks at what their last price was. So if you were buying them and there was only 2 things on the board, the minimum to get it out, and you bought them for, say, $200 a piece, and when it got eaten it was at 3, which is $300 a piece, you could sell them for a slight profit. Or you can trade them 2 for 1 to the bigger stock. Now, it may not matter much to you if, okay, well, it was a 4, this is a 3, it ate it, so it's bigger, but it's not huge. But if it was a giant stock, to be able to trade 2 for 1 could be pretty strong. So there's that option. Or you can hold on to them. It may not make sense to hang on to them right away because you might go, well, it's useless, they're not even on the board. But because nobody else can buy these, it means that when it does reappear, if it does, you're going to have a chance at being the majority stockholder now because you have a huge amount of stock you held out waiting for it to come back. So you're going to keep doing this until one of 2 things happens. One is that one of the buildings on the board gets to a growth of 41 total spaces. Now, how can you do that, you ask? Because once you hit 11, you're safe. If a business hits 11 spaces, it cannot be eaten anymore. It is considered too large. It's going to be fine. However, it can keep growing. So now there's a chance that can get to 41. The other possibility is that on your turn, Somebody does something, they eat a business, and now all the businesses on the board are over 11 spaces. So you've basically eaten all the small ones. There's no small ones sitting around anymore, and there's only large businesses on the board. Either of these happen, and technically the game ends, although the player who just took their turn has to state that they want the game to end. Once you're done, you'll then go back through those that are still on the board. It doesn't matter how you ended, every business, and you're going to figure out who gets paid out for being the majority, who gets paid out for being the minority, and then you're going to pay out all of the stocks that they have, and you're going to go all the way until everything's off the board. Then you're going to count up your money and see who wins. It's a very straightforward game, but it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of strategy in there. There's stuff to do, and I think that that's really interesting that despite everything, the game being a little bit on the older side still brings a lot of real, I'm trying to think of the right word. I mean, it's definitely competitive. I think that it's enjoyable. I think that everybody is constantly trying to figure out what the right move is. You're slowly figuring out, if a spot is, if one group is no longer able to be destroyed and another group is no longer able to be destroyed, and there's a single layer between them, you can't put something down that would have them touch because they can't eat the other. So you start running into these dead tiles that start filling your board, and your options get limited. And you might end up having to combine two that you don't want to because it's not helping you and it's helping somebody else. So it starts to get interesting in that way. Well, why don't we jump in? Let's talk our 7 categories and see where this one lands for us. When it comes to the art, box isn't anything that grabs me. The inside of the box isn't much better. Thumbs down. The components. Components are fine. It's a basic board. It's your tiles that go on top. A lot of the reference sheets are torn out of the rule book, and the money is like Monopoly money. It's mediocre, and then I don't like those last two. It's got to be a thumbs down. Your price. It's not that this is expensive, it's that it's not necessarily easy to find. At the same time, they've put out multiple versions of it through the years, so I don't feel like it's impossible to find. It's one of those, it kind of goes through highs and lows. At the end of the day, there should be enough out there to find cheap, and you should be able to have a likeliness, especially with it being in the World Series this year. The likeliness is you're going to be able to always see a new version come out. I believe there's 3 different versions at this point that have been put out. So they're always putting out that next edition. So it should be out there. It shouldn't be that much money. Thumbs up. Your difficulty. It's not difficult. I think that a kid can play this. I think that an experienced and an expert can play this. The level of interest might die off from an expert, and a kid may not really get into this whole, basically stock market setup. So it really then falls on the beginners and the experts. I think it's enough of interest that'll give it a thumbs up. Replayability. We played it back to back that day. It doesn't take that long. Now, it doesn't mean it's done in 10 minutes. It takes about an hour. And I think that for an hour, they're willing to play it back to back. And yeah, I'm probably not going to ask for them to pull this game out again, but I won't be upset if they do. I think it's a game that, if you're kind of interested in playing Chinatown or Foundations of Rome, which can be hard to find and are expensive, this is a good one to grab so you can get that experience. But eventually, when you get one of the bigger ones, this one's going to just go out the window for you. So for me, the replayability is there, but I got to give it a thumbs down. Your keys to victory. So the keys are really figuring out how to hit which ones of your different companies first, and when should you or shouldn't you pay out. I made the decision in my second game on a couple of them to hold out. I basically guaranteed majority. There's 25 stocks each one, so I got to 13 of one of them, and I held it to the end of the game. It never got cashed out till the end, but because I did that, it was one of the 2 big companies. It was a huge payout. I won the $10,000 bonus for being first, which is really big. And I ended up cashing each of my stocks for $1,000, which is $13,000. It was a huge amount of money. And there was another one that I held out. I cashed it once, and then instead of turning them in or for more money or the other stock, I held them, and within 5 rounds again, I was able to do it a second time, and I had majority again because nobody else had done that. So there are options there. Thumbs up. Unique. The game's not unique. As I said, it's a watered-down version of Chinatown, which is a watered-down version of Foundations of Rome. They have reinvented this multiple times. There are better versions out there. It's not bad. It's a perfectly fine game, and it's far more accessible than those two based on availability, because Chinatown's not as easy to find, and based on price, because Foundations of Rome is a small fortune. So yes, it's a great game to grab because it's the one that you know is out there, and you can easily pick up. But it's still not one that's unique, and it's not the best one of its grouping. Thumbs down. Overall, what do I think? It's a nice little game. It's worth trying. If you have a shot, sure, take a shot at it. Don't go crazy. Don't go trying to find it. If somebody says, I own Acquire, I'd like to play with you, say yes. But otherwise, don't hunt this game down. Don't try to buy it. It's perfectly fine for what it is. But honestly, by the time that you end up making the effort to go get it, you probably can go and have played better games. And hopefully, if you just kind of ignore it, you might come across a Chinatown or find a discounted Foundations of Rome or have the money to spend that you want Foundations of Rome and get a better game. At the same time, if you haven't played those and you're kind of considering it, play this one first and see if it hits at all for you, because it will give you an indication if those games might be something for you. Well, it has been day 172, and we've been speaking about the game Acquire, and you've been speaking to the Meeples Champion. Like, share, subscribe, and check down below in the description. I'll be adding in an Amazon link in case you want to get this game for your collection. Until next time, I'll talk to you tomorrow.